Welcome back to the Strange History Podcast, where we dig up the weird, the wild, and the downright unbelievable stories from the past. I'm your host, Amy, and today I want you to grab an umbrella, but maybe also a helmet, a net, and possibly some frog repellent, because we're about to dive into some of the strangest weather events ever recorded in history. We've all dealt with a thunderstorm or two, maybe shoveled a little snow, cursed at the wind when it flips your umbrella inside out. But the stories I'm about to share, they go way beyond that. This is weather so bizarre that it left people staring at the sky in shock, wondering if they'd angered the gods or stumbled into a biblical plague. So, let's step back in time and explore 12 unbelievable weather events that prove Mother Nature has a wicked sense of humor.
The Kentucky Meat Shower, 1876.
Picture it, Olympia Springs, Kentucky. It's March 3rd, 1876, and the skies open up, not with rain, not with hail, but with meat. Yes, meat. Chunks of raw flesh, some the size of delicate snowflakes, others big enough to fry up for dinner, start falling from the sky. Mrs. Crouch, the poor woman who first witnessed this nightmare, ran outside and thought, quite reasonably, that the apocalypse had arrived. She and her husband described strips of what looked like beef, pork, even mutton dropping across their yard. Theories flew faster than the meat itself. Was it a cosmic prank? A scientific anomaly? Eventually, naturalists suggested it might have been a flock of vultures, vomiting up their last meal mid-flight. Romantic, isn't it? But here's the kicker. Brave locals actually tasted the meat. One said it was venison. Another claimed it tasted like lamb. No word on whether anyone came down with vulture food poisoning afterward.
Fish rain in Honduras.
Move over, Kentucky. Honduras has you beat with a tradition known as lluvia de peces, the rain of fish. Since the 1800s, people in the town of Yoro claim that at least once a year, after a heavy storm, fish literally pour from the sky and flop around in the streets. The townspeople don't find this terrifying. They find it miraculous. They scoop up the fish, cook them, and celebrate with a festival every year. Scientists have tried to explain it. Maybe waterspouts suck up the fish from rivers and drop them inland, but no one's ever fully cracked the code. To this day, kids in Yoro grow up not fearing storms, but running outside with buckets, ready to catch dinner.
The London Beer Flood of 1814.
Okay, so this wasn't technically weather, but it sure felt like a storm. In October 1814, at a London brewery, a massive vat holding over 300,000 gallons of beer burst open, sending a tsunami of ale rushing through the streets. The wave was so strong it demolished walls and flooded basements, trapping entire families. At least 8 people drowned in beer. One survivor later recalled climbing onto a piece of floating timber to avoid being swept away, while others described crowds gathering with mugs and buckets to scoop up free beer sloshing down the cobblestones. A disaster? Absolutely. But also the kind of event that makes you wonder, did some Londoners secretly brag for years about surviving the Great Beer Storm?
The Great Molasses Flood of 1919. Boston's Sticky Storm.
5 years after World War I ended, Boston was hit by something even stranger than the flu pandemic, a tidal wave of molasses. A storage tank holding over 2 million gallons of the sticky syrup suddenly ruptured, releasing a brown wave 25 feet high that raced through the streets at 35 miles per hour. Horses were swallowed, wagons overturned, and buildings flattened. One eyewitness recalled hearing a sound like machine gun fire, the rivets popping off the tank, before being nearly suffocated in molasses. 21 people died in what became known as the Boston Molasses Disaster. To this day, locals swear that on hot summer afternoons, the smell of molasses still lingers in the North End.
Black Rain of Hiroshima, 1945.
After the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in August 1945, survivors described another horror: black rain. This wasn't rain at all. but radioactive soot and debris mixed with water from the atmosphere. It fell like oily tar, staining clothes and burning skin. Survivors remembered holding out their hands, catching thick black drops, not realizing it was radioactive fallout. The black rain spread contamination across miles, marking one of the most chilling examples of weather forever changed by human history.
Hail the size of grapefruit. South Dakota, 1888.
Let's talk about hailstorms. Most of us have seen hail, tiny, annoying ice pellets that ping off your car. But in June 1888, the town of Moorhead, South Dakota, was pummeled by hailstones the size of grapefruits. Eyewitnesses described them as cannonballs from the sky. Roofs collapsed, livestock were killed, and farmers ran for their lives. One farmer recalled grabbing a wagon to shield his children, only for the hail to smash through the wood like it was paper. Some of those hailstones were measured at nearly 2 pounds each. Imagine Mother Nature pelting you with frozen baseballs.
The Dust Bowl Black Blizzards, 1930s, U.S.
For nearly a decade, America's Great Plains endured some of the strangest, scariest weather ever, black blizzards. Thanks to drought and poor farming practices, massive clouds of dust rolled across the country, turning day into night. Survivors said you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. Families stuffed wet rags under their doors and still woke up to find their beds covered in dirt. One survivor remembered watching a dust storm roll in like a giant black wall. Another recalled burying plates upside down so food wouldn't be ruined by grit before you could eat it. The Dust Bowl was weather mixed with human folly, and it nearly choked the life out of an entire region.
Snow in the Sahara, 1979.
Snow in the desert? Yep. On February 18th, 1979, residents of Ain Sefra, Algeria, woke up to find the orange sand dunes covered in a blanket of white snow. Children ran outside to make snowballs in a place where temperatures often top 100 degrees. For a few hours, the desert looked like a surreal painting, orange and white colliding. Though the snow melted quickly, locals still talk about it like a dream. Proof that even the driest place on Earth isn't safe from a snow day.
Blood Rain of Kerala, India, 2001.
Between July and September 2001, residents of Kerala, India, reported red rain. Sheets of crimson water stained clothing, buildings, and even the leaves of trees. At first, people panicked, fearing it was an omen or something straight out of Exodus. Scientists eventually traced the cause to airborne spores from a type of algae. Still, eyewitnesses described the terrifying beauty of the event. Raindrops that looked like blood falling from the heavens. Some insisted it wasn't algae at all, but dust from a meteor. And honestly, between us, meteor blood sounds way cooler.
Catfish Falling from the Sky, Singapore, 1861.
On February 22nd, 1861, Singapore residents were shocked when catfish began falling from the clouds during a heavy rainstorm. A missionary recorded that hundreds of the wriggling fish landed in fields and streets. The locals collected them and declared it a gift from the gods. Modern scientists believe waterspouts lifted the fish from rivers and dropped them inland. But still, imagine standing in the rain, only to be smacked on the head by a catfish.
The Ice Storm of 1998, North America.
This one's closer to our own time. In January 1998, a massive ice storm hit parts of the US and Canada, coating everything: trees, cars, houses, in several inches of ice. Power lines snapped like twigs. Entire forests collapsed under the weight. Millions were left without electricity for weeks in the dead of winter. Survivors remembered walking outside to a world that looked like glass, every twig encased in shimmering crystal, beautiful and deadly at the same time. One Canadian farmer described the sound of trees cracking in the cold as gunfire in the distance, over and over, all night long.
The Perfect Storm, 1991.
Finally, Let's talk about the storm that inspired books and movies. The 1991 Halloween nor'easter, better known as the perfect storm. It was a freak convergence of three weather systems that created 100-foot waves in the Atlantic. The crew of the Andrea Gale, a fishing vessel out of Gloucester, Massachusetts, tragically disappeared, their story later immortalized in film. Eyewitnesses on the coast recalled waves slamming into the shore with such force that houses shook. Sailors described the ocean as looking like mountains rising and collapsing. It was weather at its most terrifying, proof of how small we are compared to the sea. I personally remember this storm. Leaves were still on the trees. There was a chill in the air that told you it was autumn and winter was on its way. Once the snow started to fall, you knew you were in trouble. The heaviness of the snow combined with the leaves still on the trees made for an absolute disaster. Power went out everywhere, and before they could even start to fix the power lines, they had to clear the streets of fallen snow, toppled trees, and heavy snow-laden branches. We were without power here in Connecticut for close to a month, and I lived on the same grid as a city hospital. Normally, when power went out, we were the first to get it back. We cooked on a grill, drove to the only gas station open in a large city that miraculously had power to get meager supplies, and finally found an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet that was open on the other side of town and ate there every night till we could fill the fridge again. Our local power company, to their credit, issued checks to every citizen for grocery restock when it was all over. It was certainly a disaster to remember. We still frequent that all-you-can-eat buffet on occasion and listen to the weather with trepidation in the fall. And if snow is on the way, you're gassing up the generators and buying non-perishable food and dusting off your chopsticks. So there you have it, 12 of the strangest, scariest, and stickiest weather events in history. From raining meat to beer tsunamis, from bloody rain to black blizzards, these stories remind us that the sky is full of surprises. This has been the Strange History Podcast. I'm Amy, and I'll be back next time with more tales that are equal parts bizarre and true. Please like, subscribe, and tell your local weatherman about this podcast. Until then, keep your umbrellas handy, and maybe a frying pan. You never know what's going to fall from the sky.